my top 10 series that I plan to continue. If you are not reading the series, you are wasting your life. I'm not kidding. It's so good. Things that you never see coming. Welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about series that I've started and I need to continue. So like with so many books coming out all the time, I find myself in the trap of constantly starting new series and then never picking them back up or taking forever to pick them back up. It's not because I don't love the series or want to continue, because I do. It's just, like I said, there's constantly new books by great authors coming out. I'm making this video for two reasons. Number one, for my own accountability, and number two, maybe to give you an idea of some great series that you should pick up, because that's what they are. These are some of the best series that I've started and have yet to complete. This is a list of my top 10 series that I plan to continue. I'm going to use this video as my own reference. Okay, so here we go. Making it number 10 on this list is The Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice. This series starts with an interview with the vampire. It's a pure gothic horror, and it has some really deep introspective characters. I love the fantastical elements. These vampires who are struggling with their immortality, with death, and being a killer. The settings are very rich and detailed. It's just an overall like a profound exploration of the human psyche and ethics and morality and all of these things from the perspective of an immortal creature. That's number 10. I have the whole box set, and so I hope to get to that within the next year or two. Number 9 is the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. I have read the first 2 books in the series, and I would agree with many when they say that the first book is not the best. I did find that I liked the second book better, though I have heard that it only gets better as it continues. King does what King normally does and just weaves together like this masterful narrative with alternating perspectives, and it's very rich in symbolism. He always returns to that harsh and evil setting, but with this character focus, and I'm always a huge fan of Stephen King, and so I find it kind of a crime that I haven't finished this series. Like, I don't know why. I started it many years ago, and I just never continued, and I really need to. I have all the books. Number 8 is gonna be Red Rising by Pierce Brown. And I'm going to be honest and say that I really enjoyed this series, but it was not as much as some other people have enjoyed the series. I think maybe it was just a little bit too action heavy, battle heavy for me. And if you know that for me, I much more enjoy a character driven story that has less action, less battle scenes. But that being said, I really found this dystopian world kind of compelling and intricate, and the premise just fascinating. Like, he gives you this character, this underdog to root for, and I love that trope. It's definitely exciting. From what I understand, that it just escalates and gets bigger and better as the series goes on. So I do plan on picking this back up for sure. Okay, number 7, I have The Fitz and the Fool trilogy by Robin Hobb. So I have read all of the previous Fitz series within this collection, and I love Robin Hobb's character work. I know that some people find it a little slow and boring at times, but for me, it's like everything that I want in fantasy. It has animal companions, and it has this coming of age story of this character who is very much another underdog, and he just shocks and surprises, and you can't help but root for him. That's what Hobb does best, is just create these stunning characters that really just sink their claws into you and like don't want to let go. And so I was super invested in Fitz and the Fool's Tale, and they crushed me, in a spectacular fashion. So I definitely want to continue. So I've read the first book in the Fitz and the Fool trilogy, and I need to read book 2 and 3. And I believe that finishes his tale, I think. But Fitz and the Fool. Number 6 is the Hyperion Cantos. So I read Hyperion, I think it was 2 years ago now. And I loved it. I thought it was great. I love the fact that it was told from, the 6 different perspectives. And it's kind of told in the fashion of the Canterbury Tales, where each member is telling their story of how they got involved in this task that they are sent. It's definitely a unique sci-fi, and I understand why it is considered a sci-fi classic. Definitely incorporates classic aspects of myth and has literary elements that help you navigate this weird sci-fi environment on another planet. Dan Simmons, he's a great author. He's written a ton of great works. And so I am really excited to continue in this series. Number 5 on this list is Dune by Frank Herbert. I have read only the very first book in this series, and I will not lie to you, it was a little bit hard to get through. It's dry at times, but it is arguably one of the foundational sci-fi books that have been referenced in this genre by many other great authors for a reason. But it is dated, and a lot of times the dialogue felt very inorganic and just odd, and I didn't love that. So what I ended up doing was I watched the movie, and then so I had picked the book up at one point, and I was like, oh, I can't. It's too dry and kind of boring. But then I watched the movie, and I loved the movie. It was great, and it really allowed me to see Frank Herbert's vision for this movie, because I did find it hard to, and I think that was my main issue. I found it hard to envision what he was offering. And so seeing the movie, it allowed me to get a better perspective, and I was able to finish the book. But it definitely redeems itself in its originality and its brilliant concepts. It is very action-packed, and the characters kind of draw you in, and you really just enjoy them, and their magical abilities are great. The Bene Gesserit, I thought, was the best witchy storyline ever. Okay, so number 4 is The Expanse by James S.A. Corey. I was less enthralled with the plot in this book, and I've mentioned before that I had actually started watching the show before I started reading, and that detracts from the experience for me, because there's no shock value, there's no surprise. I already know what's going to happen. But for me, I found the characters in the book to be even better than on the screen. Their banter was just, that was the blood in the bone of this story. That is what drew me in and sold me on continuing. And then I will say the ending, because I didn't finish watching the series. And so when I got to the ending of book 1, I was like, yes, this is awesome. This is great. Okay, I'm definitely going to continue. I definitely thought that it was funny and thought-provoking, with a bit, political and social commentary, which I think is pretty common in science fiction. Highly recommend this series. I certainly plan to continue soon. I actually hope to pick up book 2 maybe next month. So in May, we'll see. Don't hold me to that. Number 3 on this list is going to be the Malazan series by Steven Erikson. I read Gardens of the Moon last year and Dead House Gates. Understand and agree that this series can be hard to get into, because Erikson really does just drop you in the middle, unaware of anything that's going on. He just expects you to pick up on this complicated and hard to follow plot by showing you the happenings through all these different perspectives. And I mean, his characters are great. He really develops them and makes them intriguing and interesting with their abilities and their interactions. Yeah, it's really great. I mean, you can feel the immensity of this tale just pouring out from the book within the first few pages, and you just know that you're about to be delivered something spectacular. But he builds this world really through the characters. They're just deep and layered, and they reveal themselves slowly. I definitely think this is a series that is best kind of read slowly, with some time in between each book, so you can just kind of savor and like chew on everything that's happened and really reap the benefits from it. I think if you were to maybe go into it and read it too fast, that there's a lot that could be missed, because I'm not kidding when I say like there's just so much happening in this story. That's my plan, is to read just maybe one book every 6 months or something. Not to mention the fact that they're so dense. Malazan. Then, number 2 on this list is the Prince of Nothing series by R. Scott Baker. I read the first book in January. I have a review on it, and I loved it. It was an easy 5 stars for me. Easy. It's very grimdark and very medieval and like Dark Ages feel. The characters are gritty and it's just brutal. It's very brutal and shocking. I really loved the way that Baker used the POVs to explore each character. So not only do you learn about the character that you're reading from, but you also get a better perspective of the other characters around them. And I love when this is well done, because it just allows for such a deeper understanding of each character when you're seeing them from like a 360 viewpoint. And I love that, because I adore character driven stories. Like I've said, I recently bought book 2. I really hope to get to that one in the next month or 2. And if you haven't read this series, because maybe you've heard that there's some problematic topics when it comes to his writing of women, I understand that. And I would say that, yes, there are some issues. He does portray women in a negative or derogatory fashion. But like I mentioned in my review, that is appropriate for this setting. Like I said, it is grimdark, it is medieval feeling. And so for an author to write a book with that setting, but yet to apply to it more liberal and feminist viewpoints, it would not feel correct. It would feel unbefitting of the story. You just have to go into it knowing that this is a grimdark fantasy. There's dark topics, and equality was not a thing. I'm sorry. It just wasn't. So anyway, I loved it. It's great. Definitely read it. And number 1 should come as no surprise to any of you who have been watching my videos, because I constantly am talking about this series, and that is the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio. This series is everything. It is phenomenal. If you are not reading the series, you are wasting your life as a reader. I'm not kidding. It's so good. It is a modern day classic. I mean, it is just as simple as that. This is just like the beginning of the height. Everything that it's getting, it's just the beginning. Like, mark my words, like this series is going to skyrocket, and it is going to be read and talked about for years and years to come. You think Dune is a classic? This is right up there. I mean, it's mesmerizing. Like, he just crafted this futuristic world so imaginatively and seemingly with ease. It feels like it just flows from him like a waterfall. Just a beautiful, glorious waterfall. It's great. He just weaves in these like heavy themes and topics, ideas, and I don't know. It's so good. And honestly, I love the first person narrative this melodramatic perspective that he presents. You know, it is biased, and you know that when you're reading from a first person perspective, that you're gonna get some bias and maybe an unreliable narrator, likely. But it's still, he is such a well-read and knowledgeable character that you really get this in-depth understanding of this world from him and from the inner workings of humanity and aliens and love and family. He just astounds me with every book. I'm just blown away. It's, you know how they say like some series have middle book syndrome? It's just kind of a filler. It doesn't really achieve a whole lot. Well, that is not ever the case with any of these books. Every book is better than the last book. And there are revelations, things that you never see coming. I could go on and on about this series probably for days. So I'm just going to stop myself here and say that this is the best series, the best sci-fi series I have ever read. And that I'm not being dramatic. That is the truth, plain and simple. It is the best. I have read through book 4. I'm about to pick up book 5, and I am so excited. And I actually just got book 6. I think there's going to be a total of 7, and Rockio is just pumping them out. So there is no worry about it being like, you know, Patrick Rothfuss or George R. R. Martin, where it's not going to be completed. It's happening soon. Get on the train, jump on the bandwagon, and go get you a copy of The Sun Eater and start reading it and loving it. Chat with me about the magnificence that is the Sun Eater series. Come on, do it. Do it. So anyway, that's my top 10 list. I will for sure be referencing this in the future when I am making my TBRs. I need to remember all these series that I have going and stop buying new books. Tell me about the series that you've been reading if you want. Maybe you have one that you think I should check out. If you would like for me to prioritize any of these over the others so that I can talk about them, then let me know. But that's going to do it. So I'm really glad that you stuck around and watched the video. If you made it this far, it would be really cool if maybe you left me a little sun emoji down in the comments, you know, for Sun Eater. Okay, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you again soon.